Wes Craven's Wishmaster is a fun movie. It's not the best or the worst of films, but I think the interesting thing about it is that its biggest downsides seem to support its greatest strength. You see, Wishmaster clearly understands what it is, and it leans into its identity so much that it often leaves major parts of the film by the wayside. The dialogue is pretty subpar, the acting is decent at best, but pretty bad in the majority, and the story itself is fairly weak and is clearly just a play-by-play to get to certain moments throughout the movie. But these downsides hardly take away from the core of what the film actually is, and what the movie itself seems to care about, and that is the djinn. And more specifically, the wishes that the djinn grants, and the way that he twists the words of the wishmakers. These scenes and moments are awesome highlights that are sprinkled throughout the movie, giving us twisted and horrific instances often portrayed through wonderful practical effects and less wonderful special effects, but the creativity and the fun nature of these scenes elevate Wishmaster beyond its own faults, just like how every one of you wonderful subscribers elevate my day beyond what life could throw at me. Thank you for subscribing. Mwah. The movie opens in an ancient kingdom where we see the work of the djinn is already wreaking havoc. You see, the king wished to see marvels beyond what he could imagine inside of his own kingdom, and the djinn twisted his wish to become horrific. The citizens of this ancient kingdom fall prey to the djinn's magic, becoming hybrid creatures or being sucked into the architecture itself, or falling prey to creatures that emerge from their own chests, and my absolute favorite of these tragedies, having their own skeleton rip itself from their flesh where it comes to life and begins to attack other citizens. It's such a cool little effect. The djinn tries to convince the king to make his third and final wish to save his kingdom, but the king's wizard advisor stops him before it's too late. We're told that if the one who summoned the djinn were to make a third wish, then a gateway between worlds would open up and all of the legions that follow the djinn would be freed upon the earth. The wizard then raises a gem into the air and recites an incantation, which sucks the djinn inside and traps it for centuries. In the present day, a crane operator named Mike is drunk on the job, and his inebriation causes him to drop a priceless statue onto a man, squishing and killing him instantly. When the crate and the statue break apart, a dockworker notices the djinn's gem in the rubble, and he pockets it and pawns it off as quickly as he can. I know that the cameos here were brief, but this starts a trend in the movie of giving horror movie veterans small scenes to star in. We got Robert Englund, who you'll most likely know as Freddy Krueger, and Ted Raimi from Evil Dead 2 in this previous scene, and we'll see cameos from Tony Todd the Candyman, Kane Hodder, who has played multiple iterations of Jason in the Friday the 13th movies, and Reggie Bannister from the Phantasm films. Another audio-based cameo comes from the opening narration where we hear Angus Scrimm, the tall man from the Phantasm films as well. The cameos are just fun little nods to the horror genre in general, and it was great to see them crop up all over this movie. We meet the main character of the movie, Alex, and her best friend Josh. Josh has absolutely no game, and he tries to ask Alex on a date, but is instantly friend-zoned, even when he tries to cutely give Alex his hat as a token of his affection. Alex runs off to work where it turns out she's an appraiser for an art shop. The pawn owner sells the shop the gemstone, and it's Alex's job to see how much it's worth. But while studying it, she notices some dust on its surface and wipes it on her shirt, which wakes the djinn. She hears a creepy voice calling out to her, and the next time she looks into the gem, it has a strange light emanating from inside. This causes her to question the gem's worth, so she decides to take it to her bestie Josh's lab so that they can run some tests and make sure that it's authentic. Once she gets to the lab, Alex realizes that she's late for coaching her basketball team and she has to skedaddle, leaving Josh with the gem and trusting him to run the necessary tests. Alex gives some killer advice to her team.
Shoot the ball.
At the same time, we see Josh running a laser test on the gem, and this seems to weaken it just enough for the djinn to escape. The gem and the machines in the lab explode and knock Josh off of his feet and injure him in some undefined way. He hears someone crawling around in the lab, and when he turns, he sees an odd pupa-like creature inching its way towards him. The creature can see that Josh is in pain, and he says that he can help if Josh were to ask. Josh does exactly that, asking for the Jinn to take away his pain, and to do so, the Jinn takes Josh's life and soul, which is a roundabout way of taking his pain away, I guess. He's able to use the power from the wish to grow to his full and naked self, but as the wish is granted, it seems that Alex is somehow connected and aware of what has happened. She rushes to the lab to find her friend dead, and is questioned for a moment by the detective, but there's not really a case here, and it seems like it's just an accident, so Alex leaves the detective with her business card in case he needs to get in contact with her. Now, the real fun of the movie begins. We see a homeless man arguing with a pharmacist.
I hope you die, and I hope you float down the gutter so I can fucking piss on you.
He walks away, but as he gets near an alley, a voice calls to him, asking if he'd like help taking out his enemy. The Jinn offers to kill the pharmacist in exchange for the homeless man's life force, but of course the homeless man doesn't believe the offer to be possible. He says that he wants the pharmacist to get cancer and die, and the Jinn happily grants the wish. We see the pharmacist collapse in his store, breaking out in rashes and wounds before swiftly dying. Upon seeing this, the homeless man runs away from the Jinn in fear. Each time the Jinn grants a wish, Alex seems to sense it, and she's becoming more and more convinced that some kind of evil has been unleashed. We get a very boring expositional scene here where we learn that Alex's mom and dad both died in a house fire, and Alex blames herself, but she was able to get her sister out of the house in time, so her sister is alive and Alex loves her, and she'll become more relevant later on as the movie goes. The next day, Alex goes to the dock and learns that the gemstone came from the statue owned by a man named Raymond Beaumont. She has worked with Beaumont in the past since he's an art collector and she's appraised a few of his pieces, so she's able to get in to speak with him right away. He takes Alex to his personal gallery and says that the statue that broke was from an ancient civilization that believed in magic and the mystical powers of a Jinn. He doesn't know much more on the subject, so he gives Alex the contact info for a professor of folklore that should be able to answer her questions further. He also gives Alex an invitation to his party that he'll be having in a few nights. Checking back in with the Jinn, we see him go to a morgue. He begins to cut the face off of a corpse, but is caught in the act by one of the assistants. The boy wishes that he never saw the awful things that the Jinn was doing, and with a grin, the Jinn grants the wish by taking away the boy's eyes so that he's never seen anything at all. The Jinn then removes the corpse's face and places it against his own, allowing him to change his shape and take the form of the dead man. Alex goes to speak with the professor of folklore, and she actually seems to know what the gemstone is. It was written about in ancient Arabian texts and was told to have held the soul of a powerful Jinn inside. She warns that Jinns are known for their trickery and mentions that the one who summoned the Jinn is the only one that can open the gateway between worlds. She also says that the Jinn will be able to take the souls from all of those that he grants wishes to, which will be able to bring him to full power so that he can unleash his full legion. So, just to make sure we're all on the same page here, the Jinn will need to grant enough wishes to bring himself to full power, and then he'll need to get Alex to make 3 wishes so that he can use his full power to open the gateway between worlds and unleash his army. It's not too complicated, but it's not told in a very straightforward way, so I just wanted to clarify the Jinn's process here. Speaking of the Jinn, he's gone to a store to get suited up.
I'm glad you approve.
While speaking with the cashier, he's able to get her to wish that she could be beautiful forever, and to grant the wish, he transforms her into a mannequin.
Oh, that's hot.
He then heads to the police department to speak with the detective that we saw earlier. He asks for any information on Alex, but the detective refuses to give him a way to contact her. Of course, the Jinn is a sneaky fella, and he asks if there's anything in the world that the detective wants. The only thing on his mind is a criminal that his fellow officers are interrogating. The criminal is tricky and has been able to talk his way out of every crime that they've tried to pin on him. So the detective asks that for once, the criminal would slip up and do something stupid in front of witnesses that would allow them to stick him with a murder charge. The Jinn grants the wish by forcing the criminal to grab the nearest police officer's gun and go berserk. The man shoots multiple of the officers and even rips the jaw off of one of them. The detective is forced to shoot the criminal, but there's no doubt that the murder charge would have stuck if the man had lived. While this is all going on, the Jinn ruffles through the detective's things and finds Alex's business card, so now he's one step closer to finding her. The Jinn goes to Alex's work straight away, but the security guard refuses to let him in since it's after hours. While speaking, the guard wishes that the Jinn would go away, and against his will, the Jinn starts to stumble off. Then, the security guard gets cocky. He gloats as the strange man is walking, saying that he'd love to see the Jinn try and get inside because he'd have to go through him, and just like that, the Jinn turns and transforms the guard into a glass pane. The Jinn walks through the man and shatters him as he enters Alex's workplace. Alex isn't there, so the Jinn speaks with the boss. He's hesitant to give the man any information, so the Jinn asks what it would cost to make the boss feel comfortable in giving away Alex's address. The boss is pretty greedy, and says that if the Jinn were to make him a millionaire, he'd be happy to give him any information he requested. We see a quick scene of the boss's mother filling out an insurance policy and making her son the primary beneficiary. She boards a plane and, yeah, but then it explodes. Finally, the Jinn is able to track down Alex, but now he has to trick her into asking for 3 wishes. He stalks her at a basketball game and hears her speak over the phone to the folklore professor, and decides that he could use her to get Alex to make wishes. He heads over to the professor's apartment, but she isn't home at the moment, so he sits on her couch and pulls out the gemstone. It seems that he has enough souls to fully power up. We see all of the people who have had a wish collapse as their souls are sucked into the gemstone. Alex falls to the ground as she feels all of the lives being drained away. Her phone rings and the Jinn taunts her and says that only she can release the souls and end their suffering. She rushes to the professor's house looking for some kind of help. She tells the professor that the Jinn is powered up and now only she stands in the way of a likely apocalypse. The professor begins giving Alex some information that may help, but she continues to interrupt herself and ask Alex if she's thirsty or hungry or if she'd like the air conditioning on. This is strange, and Alex picks up on it right away. She seems to realize that this is somehow a trap, and she stands to leave, but the professor stops her and shows that she is actually the Jinn in disguise.
Behold my true face. Yeah.
The Jinn threatens Alex's sister and goads her into making her wishes. She asks what would stop her from wishing the Jinn dead, and in a true show-don't-tell fashion, the Jinn pulls out a pistol and shoots himself. The bullet wound patches itself up instantly, showing that the Jinn is truly immortal, so he cannot be wished dead. Alex is dumbfounded and wishes to know what the Jinn is. In response, he raises the gemstone and summons her inside. She sees the Jinn sitting on a throne while the souls of all of those that he's captured are being tortured all around him.
I am despair.
The Jinn calls to a demonic hellhound and sends it after Alex, forcing her to run through the labyrinthian gem. Once she comes to a dead end, she sees the Jinn's eye peering inside at her. He taunts her, saying that he is currently hunting down her sister, and the only way to stop him will be to make a wish. Alex takes the bait and wishes that she was out of the gem and inside of her apartment, and the Jinn grants the wish.
2 wishes in. We're so connected now. Wherever you go, there I'll be. Wherever you are, I will find you.
Fuck you!
Oh.
Alex's sister isn't home, and she finds a note saying that she's gone to Beaumont's party. Alex rushes over to the mansion with the Jinn hot on her heels, but fortunately, there's another doorman that stops the Jinn from going inside without an invitation.
The name is Valentine. Johnny Valentine.
But we've seen how these sort of encounters go. The Jinn goads the doorman into asking for an escape from his job, and in return, the doorman is put inside of an escape artist's trap and left to drown.
Houdini did it in 2.5 minutes.
Alex finds her sister, but is horrified to see that the Jinn has immediately befriended Beaumont. Beaumont says that all he wants is for his party to be as great as those of ancient history, and in a really cool mirroring of the intro, we see the party transform into a complete disaster. One lady turns into a transparent crystal. We see one man get strangled by a piano as it comes alive. A snake statue also comes alive and eats a dude. It's just a whole lot of bad, and somewhere in this chaos, Alex loses track of where her sister is. As the madness continues, the Jinn finds Alex and says that she is the only one who can save all of these people. But she runs away. As she rounds a corner, Alex runs directly into Beaumont. The man collapses and vomits up a black, gooey creature. Alex keeps on running through the halls until the security guards call out for her to stop. Unfortunately for them, they've stopped in a statue-lined hallway. The statues come to life and immediately body the poor guards. Of course, all Alex cares about is her sister, so she keeps on running and shouting her sister's name. Finally, the Jinn corners Alex in the gallery. He reveals that he's captured her sister inside of a painting, and to force Alex to wish, he sets the painting on fire.
Make your wish.
It seems that Alex is lost, but she begins to remember something that she's discovered over the past few days. She remembers how all of this happened, and how just one thing could have prevented the gem from ever being discovered. She wishes for Mike, the crane operator from the beginning, to not have been drinking on the job 2 days ago. The Jinn screams as he realizes what this means, but he has no choice but to grant the wish. The gemstone comes to life and sucks the Jinn inside. The world resets to 2 days earlier, and we see Mike gently place the statue on the dock, and it's added to Beaumont's collection. We see Josh and Alex flirt it up, but this time, Alex is more than happy to say yes to a date with him. As the final scene, we see the gemstone inside of the statue, and the Jinn contemplating before he bursts into laughter. And that is where this movie ends. While this definitely isn't Wes Craven's best work, it was fun to see a film understand what it was and what its audience expected. It opens and closes with incredible scenes of horrific events and gives us small tastes of those tragedies throughout, showing how truly terrifying the power of a Jinn could be. It's a nice reminder that despite a lackluster story and fairly mundane characters, films can still portray a well of creativity and strange horror and imagination, as well as give us cautionary truths. Whether it's the curse of a Jinn or just through the ambitions of life, Wishmaster reminds us that our wishes and desires truly have power over our lives. These desires can propel us to remarkable heights, fueling our passions and igniting the fires of our ambitions, yet at the same time, they come with an inescapable truth. Every wish, every aspiration, carries with it an intricate web of consequences, both foreseeable and unforeseeable. It's important for us to delve into the truths that fuel our desires, to unravel the understandings of their costs, and to weigh these consequences with the utmost care and consideration. For it is in this delicate balance between desire and consequence that we truly come to understand the essence of our existence and the profound nature of choices. Overall, I'd say this movie was fine, and I did enjoy it despite its many flaws. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on the next one, and remember to wish carefully down in the comments because you never know how your wishes are going to be interpreted. Until next time, stay safe out there and happy watching. Bye-bye!
Make your wish.
I wish for a box. Sweet! I wish to blow up. I mean, like, get big.